Okay.
So just to kick this off, as I was saying, firstly, we were discussing this, Lata and I and Shiv. The first chapter in the Gita is relatively, I mean, in terms of material we can discuss, it's relatively short. So we could probably handle the whole chapter in one go. And the second chapter becomes much more significant. And that one we could probably go verse by verse if everybody is okay with that. Also, as I was saying, Shiv has always said that to really get the most out of this, you have to look on the things as metaphors, right? So the war is a metaphor for a challenge that's facing you. So to make it personal to yourself, you have to make it a metaphor. And probably we can't have everybody speaking about their particular situation. If they want to, that's fine, but maybe some people won't want to do that. So that's up to everybody. We could have different perspectives that we discuss the different concepts in the Gita. So for example, we could discuss it from the perspective of a student, or from someone who's a young person just entering the workforce, or an older worker, entrepreneur, retiree, things like that. We could also take the perspective of a country, because there are a lot of interesting geopolitical things going on in the world today. And we could also discuss it from the standpoint of civilization. For example, the Hindu civilization has up to now not been particularly well understood, I should say, in the West. And that's changing now. You know that Diwali was celebrated, and many states in the US had holidays on Diwali, the major Diwali day. So that's really very interesting. And as the foreign minister of India was saying, this is a reflection of the Indian diaspora and how they have done in the US. And it's a recognition by the US and by the US government that this diaspora, these immigrants, are contributing in a very meaningful way to the United States. So most of us are in the United States, so just saying it like that. So having said that much, I just want to hand it off to Lata to moderate how you want to go from here, or maybe to Shiv, I don't know.
Shiv, would you like to start with the sloka that you were interested in chanting?
Sure. I don't know if I want to like teach people how to chant it, but what I guess I can share what I've been learning in my own life about how I am using the shlokas. And this is all new for me. So I'll just share about what I've been learning. Now, honestly, I haven't really started so much with Gita as I've been starting with Gayatri mantra in my own life personally right now. And now, as I understand it, these shlokas can be used and integrated into one's life in different ways and understood on different levels. So let's say we have the first level of understanding, which could be, let's say, the literal interpretation of the shloka, which could be in many different ways, because each of these words in Sanskrit can be translated to English in many different ways and understood on many different levels. So the second sort of level of interpretation could be how we are applying this literal translation to our life and understanding it and applying it to our life. The third level might be how we're understanding the symbology of this shloka, and how we're not just simply repeating words or repeating the shloka with the words and the intonation, but also as we are chanting, we're also connecting emotionally to what we're saying, such that we're developing not just an intellectual understanding of what we're saying, but an emotional experience also of what we're saying. So this can lead to the fourth level of understanding, which is the true integration of the shloka into our experience, such that in every moment we are able to translate what we've learned from the shloka into our experience and be able to use this to make better decisions in our life. And this, to me, is the ultimate sort of way of what at least in my experience, what I'm trying to learn from these shlokas is how to use this in a way that helps me to make better decisions in my life. Okay, so for example, I'm starting with Gayatri Mantra, and I'm learning very quickly that just the chanting of it alone, and even just the learning of the literal translation alone is not enough for me to be able to integrate it into my life and make better decisions with the help of the learning from these shlokas. What I really need is this integration of the emotional experiential experience of the shloka, which allows for integration of the I guess it's almost like a spontaneous intuitive understanding that comes from the experience of the shloka. And this, to me, is how the integration and the learning process truly happens in the yoga, the internal yoga, that process of truly understanding what this shloka is teaching us about ourselves. And I guess this brings me, I guess it's maybe a little bit off topic from Gita itself, but I get it sort of relates in terms of my own understanding of how to use these shlokas in my life and in my own yoga practice, to get to the point where I have integrated what the shloka is trying to teach us into my every waking moment. Not that I just need to sit and repeat the shloka in order to clear my mind and find a meditative space, which is, I guess, one way that it can be used. But, you know, to get to the point where this is constantly going on in the background of the mind, such that it is truly integrated into my beingness, into my body structure, and helping me to be able to make better decisions in my life. It's a part of my yoga practice, and that's why I'm starting with Gayatri Mantra, which for me, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat is slowly, it's taking more time than I thought initially to learn what this truly means and be able to actually integrate the knowledge of what this is teaching, because each word is transmitting so much more information than I am currently capable of speaking. So to give an example, I guess I could say about like the first beginning of this shloka, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, which one way of translating could be that the Om is the sound, the initial sound that connects, that is the sound of the creation itself. A simplified explanation. Bhur, almost like the past. Bhuva, the present, and Swaha meaning like the future, or Bhur meaning the earth, Bhuva meaning the space in between, and Swaha meaning the heavens. So the Bhuva is what is created when the heavens and the earth unite and become one in the space internally in the heart. And so this is, I guess, like the beginnings of this understanding of this shloka. And it goes on, and I can, keep talking, but I want to give other people a chance to share what they're learning.
Divya, would you like to say something? Did you read anything on the first chapter and understand?
Yes, I did read the first chapter. I have my, Bhagavad Gita book, and I, think that the chapter is basically trying to set the stage for what's happening between the two sides of the wars, and Arjun is, conflicted as to what his role is in this war, because there are people that he would be fighting for on both sides of this war. And so he needs to reach within himself and try to really figure out, so this isn't just about loyalties to one side or another, because if it was about loyalties, then he has to be loyal to both sides, in which case should he not fight. But he's a warrior, so because he's a warrior, he needs to be fighting this war, he needs to be doing something, he needs to take action. So there are a lot of people, teachers and people he needs to respect, telling him what to do. His family is on one side, his king is on another side. So I think in what they're trying to explain is, well, what you need to do is take the side of Krishna. And if you take the side of Krishna, then no matter what you do, you'll win this war. So he's very much struggling, trying to figure out how he needs to take the side of Krishna and what morals he needs to be following in order to win the war, not just, physically in the battle or choosing a side, but within himself, and to protect the people he loves. Because if he wins this war on either side, then, who will he be able to, who is he fighting for? If whatever he wins from this war, who can he distribute it to, if all the people that he would have wanted to succeed in this war are no longer, because of his actions as a warrior? So there's a lot of struggle here. There's a lot of internal and external conflict, and I think how he manages it, there's a lot to learn in terms of what Shiv was saying, the mantras that he's going about, like how he's trying to convince himself right and wrong. There's a lot to learn in terms of what is right and wrong, just based off of his understanding and the battle that what he naturally can think about, how to go about this, even if, it's not just about like what his decision is at the end and what he decides to do, but like how he's choosing to go about it, that we can learn from.
Thank you. Dolly, would you like to say anything about the first chapter? You're muted.
Unmute yourself, Dolly.
Unmute yourself. Meanwhile, Vaishali? No, Dolly, you are muted. Can't hear anything. Vaishali, can you unmute yourself, please, and say if you want to say anything about the first chapter, if it pertains to you, anything that you extract from this chapter for your own life?
Okay, I have studied the shlokas, but like how Divya beautifully put it, that way I've I think yet to learn. But the one thing which I feel, the first shloka which says Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. So what I think is that to fight that war or whatever. We don't need to be outside. Like Divya said, the war is inside. So Dharma Kshetra is like the field of action which we are in. So it can be the field around me. If I'm in my house as a homemaker, my field of action can be around me in the house. So whatever action I'm doing, I can be attached and my mind can be there and I can do that action right or wrong, depending, like how Divya said, on being on Krishna's side. So, because sometimes there can also be a conflict between two rights. I mean, he was fighting against the wrong side, but he was also thinking about the people whom he has to fight against, who have always supported him, raised him, and they are his own. So it was kind of a fight between two dharmas also, like his dharma as a kshatriya, as a warrior, his duty, and also the other dharma that he has to protect his, elders and not go against them. So there was a
Conflict.
yeah, dharma, there was a conflict. But so if we keep Krishna with us, and if we do what we feel is right, adhering to that, then I think even in my own house, personal decisions, if I have to take in my life also, I think that way it helps, being the field of action around me. And one more thing, it was like Arjuna was kind of escaping, but he was never scared of dying. He was very sure that he will win the war. He was never scared of death, because he was so sure that if I fight, I'm going to kill everyone. But then why do I need this win? Why do I need all these materialistic things when I don't have my own people to share it with? So, so that was one more thing. He was very confident in that field of action. But that's what. So there was kind of a escape thing he was thinking about, to take the spiritual path. But then there, Krishna was there to guide him. And Krishna starts talking to him and advising him, preaching him, only when Arjuna surrenders as a disciple. I think that's when the actual Gita starts, second chapter, the 12th shloka, it starts. Ashocyan and Vashochastram. From there, the actual Gita preaching starts. So that's what. So only when we surrender wholly to Krishna, to the higher power, I think we will get the answers. So we have to surrender as a disciple. So that's when we'll get the answers, and we'll know what is right, what is wrong. What am I supposed to act in any situation?
For me, this relates a lot to how to deal with hesitation in life. When we don't know which is our dharma, how do we know how to find this path that is the correct path for us given our karma, right? Because for one person, the dharma may be different than for another. So how do you know? And this is how we surrender to Krishna, as you're saying. Yes.
Jiten,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Jiten, would you comment on the first chapter, please? What do you take out as the most important points in the first chapter for your own personal life?
I think most of the people have already emphasized a lot of those points,
Yes.
Main thing, the way I see it, I'm still trying to understand Bhagavad Gita and not applying to my life yet, because first you have to understand what it means and what Krishna is saying that you got to do. So the first chapter is a conflict which is usually happens in life, that when enough is enough. So there was this one point, when Krishna draw a line, that, they were supposed to share the kingdom with Pandava. They didn't do it. They did all kinds of things. And then he asked for 5 villages. So that was very reduced down, and then they said no to that also. So there is a point in there, where enough is enough. And I have to take a stand in that, So Krishna decided that the war has to go on, you know. So the Arjun dilemma is, you know, as other people have commented, that two most important persons there, Bhishma and Drona. Drona is his teacher, you know. Why will he kill his teacher for material gains? You know, he doesn't want to kill teachers, you know. And then Bhishma is the grandfather, and he has taught him everything from the very beginning, you know. I mean, he loves him so much that he's saying that what will I get out of this? You know, even if I get victory, so what? It doesn't matter, you know, that victory is nothing for me. And what Krishna is trying to tell him is that you have to take a stand at some stage and you have to stick to it. And a lot of the other things that he's worried about, that they will die and all of that, that's not there. They won't die, you know, they are ever existing, you know. Then he talks about the difference between the body and the soul. You know, so the whole thing starts with the knowledge of all of this, which he doesn't have. So that knowledge is very important, you know, that you are not this body, you are soul, you know, so therefore you have to do things pertaining to soul, not the body.
Yeah. Jinkle, would you like to contribute your views on the first chapter?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry. So the first chapter, from what I got out of it, was the fact that they're laying it out on the battlefield, and they have all these, you know, great warriors. But then at the same time, Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, you know, just who else is there? There's great warriors, not great warriors. So he's laying qualities out there. They already know that they're wrong, but on one side they're like, we're going to fight anyway. But Arjuna is knowing that he's right, does not want to fight. So it's complete opposites going to each other. But you know what I found interesting was that Krishna was like, don't worry about your family, because they have been here for thousands of years in each form, each body. So when you do leave, nothing is forever. You are here today, you will go tomorrow, but only the true path is the right of Dharma. And like somebody said that, you know, how do you know what your Dharma is? That's what you have to find out, because even though all these people were so good, Bhishma and everybody, they knew.
Oops. I think, oh, Jinkle.
She came back, yeah. I think everybody else should mute
Jinkle, I think your bandwidth just got like low for a little moment, and we just lost connection with you and couldn't hear what you were saying. So maybe if you could just start from the beginning, and then we'll hear what you have to say.
Sure, I'm sorry about that. Is it better now?
Yes.
Everybody
now
else mute yourselves. Maybe that makes a difference.
Yeah, I'm so
it's her
sorry.
bandwidth. It's nothing to do with anyone else. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's me. I am facing my own dilemma of Dharma right now. I want to be here.
Fight through it.
So yeah, so as I was saying, like people already knew going into this battle where they were. You know, they knew the wrong, they knew what side, if they were on one side or the other side, they knew they were wrong, but they chose to do it anyway. So Krishna does help you decide, you know, if you're lost, just surrender, you will find your way.
Something is wrong with your speech out there, the computer out there.
Oh,
I
my
think it's
goodness.
a phone. I think she has a phone, I think.
Yeah.
Vibha, you want to say a few words? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Vibha?
Yeah, I can hear that. I can
Jinko,
hear.
I think your energy is so powerful right now. You're overpowering your phone. Let's try again in like a few minutes for you, okay? I don't know what's going on. All right, let's okay.
Vibha can say a few words.
Yeah, I think it's a great summary. Everyone is describing the first chapter. It's a I think I'm listening it very well, but next time definitely I will contribute that with the reading and everything. So
Okay,
yeah,
great.
thank you.
Gita, would you like to say a few words on the first chapter before we move on to the, oh, Malika can speak after that also. Let Gita speak first. Nahi sun raha, it's muted, you're muted.
I'm agreeing to everyone and I'll pass.
Okay, Malika, you want to say something? Beta, you unmute yourself.
So yeah, just very briefly, definitely very interested to hear everybody's comments, and I think what's nice about the kind of just setting the stage for the entire Gita is, thinking about how imperfect humans are, and at various times we become self-aware of that imperfection. Other times we don't really think about it. But even the kings, I think highlighting this in the context of kings and the royalty and how much imperfection there is in the royalty, it's really interesting to think about, and how imperfect our leaders are as well, and just acknowledging that they're human too. So just lots of really interesting parallels to our own lives as individuals, and also looking at, the leaders in our lives as well, how we're all human. So those are my only comments.
Very good. There's a new person here, Lavanya. Would you like to say something about the first chapter? I know you joined a teeny bit late, but.
Hi, thank you. This is my first time. I was kind of trying to join the group. Yes, this is like really great that, I'm just getting exposed to Bhagavad Gita. Like I've never read it. So it was really good, reading the chapter, and feel there is so much. And also I was so inquisitive, I had to read the whole second as well, which was more.
Very good.
Yeah, it was just the storyline for the first, but the second was really gave me insight into what I'm really looking forward to. So I'm really glad that I am part of this group. Thank you for making this happen.
Thank you. I think now we could probably move on to the second chapter, which is.
Can I summarize what? I think the key thing in the first chapter really is, from an individual point of view, you have to figure out what your dharma is, right? That's the number one thing. And then what is your obstacle? What is preventing you? Also, you will notice throughout Hinduism, there's always an emphasis on reincarnation. And that's fine, but it's really hard to get your hands around the idea of reincarnating to another life, literally speaking. But you have to see that we often have to effectively get a second chance at doing something, right? Whether it's a second chance at doing your career, if for a student you may be going to a new semester, then that's another chance. So you're effectively reincarnating all the time in your life. As you go from student to a worker, you are reincarnating as a worker. And then from young worker to an older worker, entrepreneur, all those kinds of things. At each stage in life, your dharma, what is the thing that you are willing to really fight for, that down in your bones, this is what I really, really want, and I will not take no for an answer. So that's what we have to think about.
Thank you. Now we go on to chapter 2, And I think in the second chapter, there are a lot of issues that I'm sure each one of us has gone through that experience of facing this. Including me, I had lost my brother, younger brother, when he was 17-year-old. Then, of course, I lost my mom and then my dad and so many family members. Now, we all grieved for them at the time and even now. But in this chapter, it really puts your mind into ease. And even the Panditji that was doing the puja in our house had told us that time that the soul never dies. So don't worry, he'll be born or she'll be born somewhere else, so not to worry. And each of us have lost somebody. And this is what this chapter talks about repeatedly. And I would ask someone else to elaborate on that. Who wants to talk on that? Shiv?
I can speak a little about that. I think this relates to what Pravin was saying about birth and death being more of a something that's constantly happening than something that is happening to the soul, because whatever is being birthed and whatever is dying, it is not who you are. Yeah. So this is when we want to understand what the reincarnation means, we have to understand what the birth and the death truly is from the perspective of understanding that we are eternal in our essence. And so when to understand what our dharma is, we have to sort of have a detachment from our karma, which is the experience that we're having, which is the situation is that we have inherited, right? And so if we are too attached to that karma, to whatever situational inheritance we have received, then it's difficult to find that purpose, because the dharma, because then we have these conflicting ideas of what the dharma is. And that's why it's so important to have that devotion to Krishna, so that we can see clearly what the dharma is.
Yeah. Anybody else? Basically, in this chapter, what I understood, obviously, Arjun is totally overwhelmed, like about killing, the thought of killing his own family, thought of shooting his own teacher and his grandfather and all his 100 brothers, and in the family. And so Krishna is repeatedly trying to give him confidence and telling him that nobody, it's just the body which dies, it's just the body which goes, which is hard to take, when it's your own person going away. But it's still your body which goes, but the soul always remains. And it's really, really comforting to hear that the soul never dies. Soul was never meant to die, just came in a body, and the body is burnt and gone, but the soul is going to be born somewhere else in another body, like Shiv mentioned about reincarnation. Now, there are different aspects of reincarnation too, which we've read through different gurus, that they are talking about. But we don't have to mention that because it's not mentioned in this chapter as such. So he's telling Arjuna not to get confused. Either he has to kill those people because it's duty, or he has to get killed himself. So what do you do in real life? You have to face the issues and the problems as they come, right? And not worry about the fruits and not worry about the person dying, because the soul is not dying. That's me saying this. Jinkle, you want to say anything? Jinkle, are you there?
I want to ask one thing here, Vibha here.
Yeah.
So I think Pravin and Shiv both are talking about dharma. and definition of dharma, I would like to understand from them, because is it a action, or it is a duty, and how it relates to second chapter?
Well, what I understand of dharma is that the way it's described in the Gita is righteous action. In this particular case, when he's talking to Arjuna, he's talking about what is the right thing for you to do given the situation, and the situation was that the Kauravas they cheated the Pandavas. This is, you have to go back in the Mahabharata. They cheated the Pandavas. They cheated Yudhishthira in the game of dice, and then they expelled them from and made them go to the forest for 12 years or whatever it was. And in the last year, they claimed that they were discovered, and so they made all kinds of cheating. And then they tried to insult Draupadi. There's that famous scene, and Krishna saved Draupadi. So, and as I don't know whether it was Gita who mentioned that, they tried to, Krishna came and tried to compromise on who would own the kingdom, or how much of how would the kingdom be shared among the two, between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And the Kauravas were not willing for anything. They were always behaving very poorly and not willing to share anything with the Pandavas. So it got to the point where there's no other way. There's no choice. Either you fight these people as you're a warrior, or if you go away. Krishna says this in many, whether I forget whether it's the first chapter or the second chapter, people will think you're afraid. People will have scorn for you, so you have to think about the impression that you create on other people unintentionally. You may have a particular goal in mind, but other people will think differently, and you have to do what the world expects of you as a warrior in this case, right? And so if you translate this into your personal life, you have to think, what is it that I am absolutely determined to fight for? What is it that I know in my bones I really, really want, and which is right for me? So, and which is good. That's what I think of as dharma.
So it's basically what your duty is at that point of time.
Yeah, duty from the perspective of what the world expects from you, what you think your duty is. So, I mean, it's almost like, I guess in Christian belief, they call it a calling. What's your calling in life? And you have to pursue that.
So in my perspective, it's less based on what the world is expecting of you, less based on what the world is trying to force on you, more based on actually your devotion to Krishna and your devotion to your understanding and ability to clearly see through your karma and not be identified with your situation. Because if you're identified with your situation, then yes, you will be falling into what the world is forcing on you. But if you're not identified with your situation, then you'll be able to clearly listen to what Krishna is saying in your heart through the devotion. And through this devotion, through being able to clearly listen beyond the karma that had been inherited, right? Then you can not get distracted by what everything is trying to being forced on you, and be able to clearly listen to what it is that your purpose is, what it is that your dharma is, what it is that Krishna is telling you to do from a higher level, from your soul. Because from the perspective of your soul, you've chosen to come in with this karma. You've chosen to come in with this situation. You've chosen to be birthed into this situation. Yeah. And so because you've chosen to be birthed into this situation, now you've chosen because you have a purpose in mind even before you came into this life. And this is the dharma that Krishna is attempting to have us to see, so that we can choose this. And it is the dharma is something that we're choosing given our karma.
Okay.
This
Yeah,
is
that's
my
great.
perspective.
Great.
Divya, do you have any? I'll give everybody just couple minutes to talk because time is flying. We have to give chance to everybody to talk. Divya?
I'll keep it short, but I do like a lot of the points that have been made so far. I just like to reiterate a couple of those points and give my own perspective. So it does seem like, this is a fight between the two sides that are happening here. And right now he's reaching up to Krishna and asking him, what should I do? Which side should I fight for? And instead of telling him you should fight for this side or you should fight for that side, he says, just fight. You're not on a side, but it's your duty to take action and do something here. And I think what he's doing is reframing what his goals are. Your goals aren't the materialistic gains and the power that this war is about. Your goals are to are Atma and Dharma, and to realize your karma. And this is about, liberation of the soul, because the soul is eternal. So I think someone mentioned, like, he loses concern for his own life, because this isn't about what form your body is in or what form the bodies are of the people around you. It's about the actions that are happening as you're going about this war, because he's saying everyone's actions are kind of being monitored here, like where and you'll see that in your karma, but this is a demonstration of who all these people are, and their soul, whether you win the war, whether you win the materialistic gains or not, it'll be recognized in future lives and in eternity.
Vaishali, 1 minute. We'll keep giving less
No,
time.
actually, yeah, no, I don't have much to say because I've yet to read properly the second chapter. But yes, it mainly talks about the soul, which is eternal. So, the fire cannot burn it, the sword cannot cut it, like that. Krishna has explained it to Arjuna. And he also tells him that these people who are wrong on the other side, who are all done wrong in their lives, I've already killed them. You are just going to be an instrument. So, and then you have to set an example that, if you run away from here, it will be like a bad example set for the kings, like your fame and all will all go down. So that is not right. You should do your duty as a warrior. And then I think many other questions which Arjuna has, which Krishna answers. And he also tells him how, just like we change clothes, get into a new dress, that's how the soul changes, takes different bodies. So that's how it is. So you should not grieve for this. So that's what he...
Jitain or Gita?
Yeah.
Gita or Jitain? Couple minutes.
Yeah. I think there is a little metaphor here, for Krishna. So Krishna is basically your consciousness, so anytime there is a dilemma in your life, the consciousness tells you the right path, That's what the Gita says in the whole book, it emphasizes that whatever Krishna wants is what you are supposed to be doing, So your consciousness, whatever that advises you, you should do. The second point, anytime you are doing the actions, you should see is the larger society, It should be beneficial to the larger society, not to your personal things, not to your family, the larger society. So this whole action was done in such a way that it is beneficial to the larger society. if people who have read this, they know that when Vyas Muni, the Ashwasthama applied the Brahmastra and he didn't know how to pull it. So then Vyas Muni told him, that it will destroy the whole world. Do you want to destroy the whole world? So you have to pull it out. So he didn't pull it out. He hit it in Uttara's stomach, and Maharaj Parikshit, he died with that. And then Krishna rejuvenated that, the child, so he said, because he could see that for the larger good of the society, you need Parikshit, So anytime you have dharma issue in there, your consciousness and the larger good to the society is what you got to see.
Mallika, you want to say something? Couple minutes. This time is flying.
No, I've been enjoying listening, so I don't need to make my comments, but I really just very enjoying everybody's comments.
Okay, Lavanya, are you there?
I like the Jiten's comments on the way he said Krishna is your own consciousness. So that's a very good description here for the soul and all. Yeah,
Very good.
Thank you.
Lavanya?
Yeah, for me, it was more about the eternal soul and, like how that's like always there. I'm going through a very difficult phase of my life at this point, so sorry if I get emotional, but that's like really helpful.
Oh, Lavanya. I'll talk to you later. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you have my phone number. You can always reach me. Okay?
Yes.
Shobha, you want to say a few words? I think she's not able to unmute herself, she says. I think that's it. She is not able to talk, and Jinkle's line is not working very well, she says. So she's not able to say anything either.
I think one thing that I'd like to add to Jiten's comment was the purpose of the devotional aspect of connecting to Krishna, in terms of the idea that you're connecting to yourself, but you're also connecting to something that is outside of yourself. When you are still identified with yourself being the body structure and the identity, then when you are connecting to this devotional aspect of the love for Krishna, this love aspect is how we connect to the higher consciousness that gives us clarity. And so I think that's something that's important to recognize.
I also wanted to comment on, there's constant statements in the Gita that when you do your duty, don't worry about the fruits of the actions. And that's a little confusing, I think, because when you're normally doing something, you do expect some result from that. So you are working towards some kind of result. And it's natural to get disappointed if you don't achieve the result, and to feel elated if you succeed in that action. But I think it's probably later in the Gita, but Gita always says, don't get over-related if you succeed, and don't get depressed if you fail. Just keep trying to do what you have to do. So there are lots of practical things, I think, in the Gita which get a little bit lost because it's put in this context of this great war. And you have to really think of, try to put it into your own lifetime, your own lifespan, right? Different phases in your life and different challenges that you face. That's what I think anyway.
Anything else?
Yeah, actually, one thing, I don't know if it's not related to the Gita as such, but like how Shiv and others were talking about this consciousness, our inner consciousness is Krishna, and you need to connect to that. And that's what we need to listen to what it says. And I think all that is possible. What I have learned is through what is called as antahkarana shuddhi. We need to purify our inner consciousness. And for that, there are so many ways like meditation, having a disciplined life, reading various scriptures, dedicating some time to self-study, all those, or listening to our gurus and their talks and all that. So with that, slowly our antahkarana, that mana shuddhi happens, and then there is more and more clarity. And then when we read something like Bhagavad Gita, and then we can connect to our inner consciousness, and I think have that clarity and hear and understand what Krishna is saying to us. That's what I have learned from my, so some discipline we need to purify our inner our mind. So.
Yep. I think anybody else has to say anything?
I think something that, like, when we get confused between our identity and what we're identifying with within our karma, and when we get confused between this and our consciousness, this is where the confusion comes. And when we cannot hear the voice of our higher calling of Krishna, and this confusion, this is the purification process that the sadhana is necessary for. So thank you, Vaishali, for recognizing that.
Actually, thank you. The word is sadhana. I was not able to get that word. Yes, true.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to add anything? Gita, you haven't spoken. You're hiding over there.
I know. I'm listening.
I know.
I think let me make a comment about
Sure.
Pravin's think about, that when you are planning for something, you always look at the result. And what Gita teaches is, don't look at the result, look at the process, look at the karma part. You have a right to perform your actions, but you are not entitled to the results. You cannot dictate those, and there are various ways to look at it, but I will just tell one way, that the way, these gurus, that whole word is made, it's all mithya, that's what they say, it's all mithya, so it's all governed by nature, so the results are governed by nature. You have only the actions that are governed by you. So you have the process in your hand, you do the right thing in the process, the way, you do the planning. And Swami Dayanand explained it very well, and I will tell you what he explained. And he gave an example, let's say you go, there is a person who goes to, office every day. He plans the same way. In the morning, he gets up, he does his work, and he has allocated different times for various activities, so he goes there and he comes down from the stairs, and first thing is he has planned it, that he will take a bus, and then he will go in the bus, and it will take that much time. So the whole planning is being done that way, and everything goes according to the plan. So that's a valid outcome. This will happen many times, but it will not happen all the time. So the second outcome could be he comes down from the stairs at the last minute, his son got sick and he needs attention. So you cannot watch, you cannot take the bus. So you have to go to the hospital with the son. So that's a valid outcome also. You should not worry about that. That will happen once in a while, so therefore you should not get disturbed by that. That's an outcome determined by the nature, because nature has a plan according to which everything works. So the results are in the hand of nature. Third outcome could be he comes down the stairs and instead of the bus, there is a friend going in the car, and he goes in the car and he reaches the office much earlier than what he is scheduled to do. So he gets some extra time. So these are three outcomes. There are more he mentioned, and I don't want to take more time, but any outcome could be there, as a result, So they're all Bhagwan ka prasad, and that's what people, Swami Dayanand said, they are all Bhagwan ka prasad. So you accept all of them by the same rigor and all of that, because you did your job. So that's what you have to see. Do your job and not worry about what comes out after that.
Yeah, I think he calls this as prasada buddhi. So we need to, the prasada buddhi we need to have and accept whatever outcome comes up.
I think like one thing that this sort of reminds me of in my life is that what I've been learning is that what we have control over and what we don't have control over, right? And if we focus more of our attention on, controlling what we don't have control over, then that's what leads to frustration and making wrong decisions. And if we focus more of our attention on what we actually have control over, for example, often, in the words of the Gita, Krishna is communicating to us through our emotion and what we're feeling. And we don't actually have control over what we're feeling, but we have control over how we're reacting to what we're feeling, right? So when we get better at reacting to what we're feeling, then this allows for us to make more of the right decisions in the moment. And this allows for us to better be able to listen to what Krishna is telling us and better be able to follow our dharma. And so this is something I've been learning in my life.
It's time now. It's past 4 minutes past 1 hour. I don't know how it affects the recording and everything. I don't know.
It'll be fine.
Oh,
It'll
okay.
all come through. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Does anyone else have anything to share about these first two chapters, or anything else to share about what we've been speaking of? If not, we can call it a day today.
And we'll do the next chapter next time, right? Jiten, we'll do just the third chapter.
No, second chapter.
Yeah, let's try and finish
You
the
got to
second
go
chapter.
deep into second chapter, so second chapter, if you can read 20 shlokas there, so from 11 to 30, because it will have to do in different, because there are a lot of concepts there that you have to understand what it means.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think towards the end, around 15 shlokas talk about sthita prajna, a wise man, how a wise man is supposed to act and who is a wise man, sthita prajna. That's a main portion in the second chapter towards the end. So I think that we need to get into more detail.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Lavanya, give me a call sometime.